Hi guys, welcome back. So, I have been inspired to do a new video on a very serious topic of why black men marry white women, or why black men marry outside of their race, right? So when I refer to white women, I'm really referring to non-black women, which can include Asians, Hispanics, Italians, you name it, non-black women, right? And I think I've been inspired just over the years. I mean, my research is in Black identity, acculturation, and implicit racial bias for my doctoral dissertation. So I always have my antennas up when it comes to interracial relations. It fascinates me. So I know it's been a while since I've come to you guys and did a very serious video topic such as this. Like, I moved back to New York City from Los Angeles on April 1st, so I've been kind of out about in the city, like doing my nature walks and just doing my little fun little vlogs, right? But I think it's time to really address a very serious topic. And I love doing these kind of videos anyway. I know it can be kind of controversial. I know it may trigger some emotions, some very uncomfortable emotions within some of you guys who are watching. So it's okay. It's okay to feel whatever you feel while watching this video. I really encourage people to just be honest, be respectful, and to share your perspective on this topic. Alright? And I do have my fan going. Y'all know it's kind of hot. It's in the middle of the summer, even though it's like, what, 5 minutes to 8 or 8 o'clock now in the morning in New York City, but it's hot. So I got my fan going. So excuse me guys for the background noise, but we're going to get through this video together, okay? Richie says, why black women date outside of their race. Are you getting defensive? Is that a defense tactic? I did a video actually on that before. I can come back and readdress that topic after this one, maybe tomorrow sometime in the next couple days. But I did do a video on why black women date outside their race and marry white men. But we're going to get right into this, guys. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I appreciate your comments and your interaction, right? He's feeling defensive. He says, why I always make black men the topic. This is just something that interests me. And thanks for asking the question, because to be quite frank with you guys, black men marry outside of their race twice as much as black women, right? So this is an occurrence that you see in black men at a higher rate, twice, 2 times as likely than black women to marry outside of their race, right? It's not always about black men. You're feeling kind of defensive and you're jumping to conclusions not even knowing what angle I'm going to come at you guys with this topic. So calm down. I just think it's interesting though to see like the initial reaction just based on the title of the video, not even knowing what I'm going to bring you guys with. To be quite honest, I wasn't even going to come at the angle that you're thinking. I know you're probably thinking like, okay, here's another black woman coming to you guys, or coming to, you know, the internet, talking about or bashing black men. I'm not here to bash black men. In fact, I'm here to paint a different perspective on this topic. I've thought about it in depth. I've done some critical thinking, and instead of bashing black men, I would prefer to understand. This video is about coming to an understanding more so than it is to bash, because of course there are African American leaders, conscious leaders, who take the angle of calling black men who date outside their race coons. They're sellouts. They've already done that. So why do I need to come on here bashing black men, saying, oh, you're a sellout, you're a coon because you're dating outside your race, you're not marrying black women. I am a black woman, obviously. I'm 36 years old. I don't have any kids. And I get asked the question a lot, why are you single? Why is a beautiful black woman like yourself single? That's a whole nother topic, but it's somewhat related. So it's something to keep in mind as I go forward and do this video. I'm going to give you guys 7 reasons why black men date outside their race. First and foremost, from my perspective and my analysis, I think that black men choose to date outside their race for protection. Now, think about black men when you're out in public and you see a black man with a non-black woman. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Feel free to share. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you see a black man with a non-black woman? But recently, when I've been out in New York City, out and about, you guys saw my vlogs, and I've done my nature walks, and I've been very observant, and I see black men with non-black women. The thing that has come to my mind is protection, especially in the context in which we live in. People don't want to face the fact, the truthfulness of the matter, that black men are damn near becoming an endangered species. Now, yes, the entire black race is being attacked, right? We are under threat. But I think if we were to break it down between black men and black women, I think black men are at a greater threat than black women. White men fear black men. And this is in many different facets of society. You know, and you would think that white men who are trained as police officers would be well equipped to be able to deal with the interaction that they face in dealing with black men, but they're not. They immediately get defensive, offensive actually. They take the offensive side and they launch out and attack black men. That's why you see countless number of black men being murdered in the street by white police officers. It is sad. So considering the context, because it's one thing to say, oh, just jump to conclusions, right? And you make your own interpretation and say, black men date outside their race because they're coons, right? And like Richie, he made the assumption kind of prematurely that I was coming at that angle. I'm not here to do that. Many of black conscious leaders have already done that. So I'll leave that to them. I like to think about things from a more analytical perspective, from a more psychological perspective, because as you guys know, that is my background. So considering the context in which we live in of society, right? Because it's one thing to just take a look at an individual, right? And you remove that individual from the context and then you just begin to judge that person. I don't want to do that. I would rather take that individual and look at the context in which they live in, the society in which they live in. And we're talking about America, the United States of America, right? Black men are endangered. So would it make sense for a black man to gain a sense of security through marrying outside of his race? I mean, it makes sense to me. If he's walking down the street and he has a white woman on his shoulder, right? He's perceived as less threatening than a black man who's alone, who's single, or is with his black wife, his black counterpart. I'm not saying that I take the position of black men marrying outside of their race. We'll probably get into that later in terms of my individual perspective or opinion on that. But I'm talking about the ideology of this issue here. I'm talking about the background, right? To gain a background understanding, to gain a context for why black men do this, right? For safety. White women or non-black women are a shield for black men. It's as simple as that. It provides a sense of security. If a black man, how many times have you seen a black man out in public with a non-black woman and he's killed? Not to say that it hasn't happened or it can't happen, but we're talking about the likelihood here. We're talking about numbers. What are the chances of a black man being killed if he has a white wife on his shoulder, as opposed to if he's walking out in public alone. What are the chances? What are the chances? And as a white woman, I don't think they have really thought this thing through, to think that they are being used as a shield, as a safety net, as a sense of security, when historically the man is supposed to be the shield of the family. He's supposed to be the protector of the family. But black men are hiding behind white women. They're hiding behind their wives for protection. Interesting. Along with that, number 2, I think, is for genetic survival. I think black men on a subconscious level are thinking about their offspring, not only themselves. I think they think about themselves first, subconsciously, how they can protect themselves from the police, from being murdered, from being prejudged by other people. But I think they're also thinking about their offspring and making a better setup for their offspring when their offspring are born, right? So that they know, as a black man knows the hell that they've been through, right? The opposition that they've been through, the attacks they've been through as a black man in American society. They, God forbid, they do not want their children to have to experience that. So what do? You intermarry. You weaken that melanin in your child's skin. You lighten it up a little bit so that perhaps they can have a better chance. Now, I think that, like I said, I don't think this is could be a conscious decision. Maybe they sat down and thought about it for a minute and said, how can I make it a little bit easier for my children, right? But I think it's more on a subconscious level, right? Because there are different things that drive human behavior. A lot of what drives human behavior, we don't even think about, right? It's like our mind, our body kind of does it for us, right? You know, there's so many decisions that are made that come as a factor of our subconscious programming, our subconscious mind. Yanga says it's very rare here in my location. I haven't seen one. Okay, Yanga, I was going to get into that. Where are you? And I would assume that you are in Africa, but correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's going to lead into another point that I'm going to make on why black men marry non-black women. We're going to get into that in a minute. But in the context, like I said, we are in America, right? So when it comes to genetic survival and you're thinking about your offspring and creating a better trajectory for your offspring, considering that racism is not going anywhere. We can protest, we can fight, we can boycott. They've done that for many years. And guess what? We still have the same, we're still here. Same issues that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents have done and dealt with, right? Like, these are the same things that they've done. What really has changed? Racism is not going anywhere. It's too much embedded in who we are. It's too much embedded in the fabric of society, unfortunately. So they're thinking ahead. They're thinking about generations to come. How can, as a black man, they're saying in their mind, how can I make life better for my son, my daughter? Marry outside your race. Marry someone several shades lighter. Procreate with someone who is not black. There's this whole thing about colorism. It's not just racism, but colorism. So there is a preference for lighter skinned black women. The lighter, the better, right? Those connotations have been associated, those negative connotations that have been made with the blacker their skin, simultaneously the same thing. The lighter the skin, those positive connotations have been made that the lighter a woman's skin is, the more beautiful that she is, right? You're in South Africa, my point, and I'm going to get to that later in the video, to juxtapose the experience of black men here in America to black men in Africa, because the numbers are different, right? The demographic is different. So for genetic survival, that's number 2. Number 3, intergenerational trauma. And I know a lot of y'all don't want to face the truth, but we have to be honest about this thing, you guys. If we want to get to the root of a problem, it's not enough just to point fingers and say, oh, a black man is being a coon. Oh, a black man is being a sellout. That's just like a parent pointing fingers at their child and saying, oh, you're a badass kid. You're dumb. You're a criminal. But you have to go deeper than that. You can't just, yes, of course you can make your assumptions. You can make your interpretation of a person's behavior based on what you see on the surface. But it's better to go deeper. It's better to ask questions. You know, it's better to try to come to an understanding of this thing, right? Intergenerational trauma. And I know you guys heard it over and over again. I've heard, I'm a black woman. I'm on the dating scene, right? Heard it. Black women are argumentative. But where does that argumentative come from? Black women are confrontational. Confrontational. Where does that come from? Black women are defensive. Where does that come from? Perhaps these behaviors, these tendencies have been learned, have been passed down through the generations as adaptive mechanisms, right? As a way to adapt to our environment. It's unfortunate. That's like if you take a person who was raised in a very volatile environment, right? All they know is to protect themselves. All they know is to be on guard because they've been raised in that kind of environment. And you take that child or that adult, move them out of that volatile environment that's high crime ridden, and you place them in an environment where there's no crime. Everybody gets along, neighbors look out for each other, everybody's holding hands, kumbaya, no threat, right? Do you think just because that person is in a different environment that they are going to automatically change at the drop of a dime? No, that person is still going to be on guard. That person is still going to have their defenses up, right? Because that's something that is learned. That's something that is ingrained in a person's psyche, subconscious mind. It's embedded in their DNA. And this has been passed down through the generations. Black people have learned to be the way we are just through our DNA. It's just who we are. We have become this way. Not only have we learned it through socialization and what we see around us and our reality, but it has been passed down in our DNA. We can't help it, right? It's going to take a lot to undo all of that programming, that genetic programming, the trauma that has been passed down. So yes, when you look at black women, and this of course is a generalization, this is not every black woman, because we know that we come in many different shapes and forms, and there's a variety of black women that exist. But when you think about stereotypically the black woman and the things that black women have been through, and you picture a black woman, yeah, you may get a woman who is defensive, on guard, hyper vigilant, right? Snappy, attitude. You know, that's like part of our culture, and we wear it with a badge of honor. You know, it's like take it or leave it. You like it or you don't, right? And kudos to the black men who accept a black woman for who she is, right? Kudos to you, because I think it takes a very strong black man to accept a very strong black woman in all her glory, and all her intergenerational trauma, and all her baggage, right? I find it interesting when I'm on a dating site and I read through a man's profile and he says, oh, I'm not looking for a woman with baggage. And of course I get it. I understand where he's coming from, right? But for a black man to make such a statement, I'm not interested in a woman with baggage, makes me wonder, what kind of man is this? Because I've never met a perfect man before, a perfect person before. That he can make such bold statement that he's not interested in a woman with baggage. Who does not come with baggage, right? We all come with baggage. And that's the intergenerational trauma. So I can understand why we're talking about black men in this video, why black men say, you know what, we know no one is perfect. We know Latino women have their issues. We know white women have their issues. But black women, yes, do come with a special set of issues. And we just have to face the music. Many years of slavery, many years of segregation have led to this sense of inferiority in us, man. It has created this complex. We have to address it. A lot of people deny, oh no, I don't have an inferiority complex. I have pride. I know who I am. Come on, y'all. It's a lot that comes with that. Even the marches, when you look at all these thousands of marches that are taking place across our country and across the world, it has to do something to the psyche of a black person walking down the street proclaiming that Black Lives Matter as if they don't matter. That you have to even shout that out. That has to do something to the psyche. When you look at businesses and they have these signs posted, Black Lives Matter, does that make you feel good? Or does that make you think about the many years and instances where you felt like your life did not matter? It strikes something in you. It triggers something in you. We cannot walk and carry about like everything is perfect, like everything is okay. Everything is not okay. So it makes sense, and I think it's better for us as a community to come to an understanding of black men. To not be so quick to attack, slow to attack black men, but be quick to understand. Move towards a sense of understanding. I already know a lot of y'all are going to get on me about this. Oh no, you're a clone. I've heard it all. This is not my first video on interracial relations. I do this. This is my topic. Like I said, my dissertation is on black identity, acculturation, and implicit racial bias. This is what I do. So I've heard it over and over again. I've made a lot of videos, too many to count, on interracial dating, interracial relations. So it's probably nothing that you guys can comment that I haven't heard before. I've heard it before, but we just have to face the facts. Number 4 would be the fact that black men, some, view non-black women as more aesthetically appealing. This is a reality. This is a fact. Some black men view non-black women as more beautiful. This is what they've been taught. This is what they've learned. And along with that, I want to kind of take a detour a little bit. This is related because I was walking through, I'm in Upper East Side Manhattan right now, and I was walking through Manhattan. Walking through Harlem in Manhattan, right? And there's a certain part of Harlem, right? Because you have Harlem, right? But then you have certain segments of Harlem that have become gentrified, that are more cleaner, more nicer than other parts of Harlem, right? That are more run down, there's more crime. And it made me think deeply. It made me think about this assumption that black people don't take care of their environment, right? They don't take care of their possessions. It made me think about the stereotype, how outside people, even within ourselves, how we look at black people who live in lesser conditions, poor conditions, right? Crime ridden, trash on the ground, and we judge them. And we tend to associate the trash on the ground, the filth, with black people, because those two have coexisted for so long that when we think about black people, we think of filth, right? But is it that black people are filthy, or is it poverty? Because if you take those same conditions and apply it to any other race, Hispanic, Indian, Italian, it doesn't matter, you will see the same thing. You will see dilapidated situations. You will see depression. You will see drugs and crime and trash on the ground if those same people were stripped of their resources, right? But unfortunately, that pairing, they call it classical conditioning in psychology, but that pairing, people have made that association. And now when you see a black person, you think of, your mind already has this judgment. You already make this judgment. You already say, that person is poor. That person doesn't have respect for themselves. That person doesn't take care of their environment, of their neighborhood, right? Because that's what you've seen. Those associations have been made. But I have to be clear, it's not black people. It's the conditions in which black people live in. So we have to make the distinction here. But when it comes to the aesthetically appealing, right, factor of why black men choose to marry or date non-black women, in their mind, that's what they have learned, that non-black women are more appealing. And when we think of what beauty is, I think it is bigger. It goes beyond what we see on the surface, right? I mean, yes, what we see on the surface matters, but let's go a little bit deeper than that. Because beauty is a construct. Race is a construct that has so many different factors embedded within it, right? So when a black woman, if you take pictures, and I'm doing, as part of my research study, I'm actually replicating the dog test study with preschool African American children age 4 and 5. But it's interesting to see this same study applied to older African American adult people, right? Or young adult, either way. How a black man will look at a black woman compared to a white woman and say the white woman is more beautiful. And like I say, the construct of beauty is a lot that goes into it. It's not just physical beauty. It's what that woman brings to the table, right? And of course, what has been associated with the white race? Riches, wealth, prestige. And all of the positive things that we think about when we think about the white race, right? It's not to say all black men. We're not talking about all black men here, but we are speaking in generalities, right? This is true. So when the black man has to choose between a black woman and all the stereotype that comes with a black woman being argumentative and historically, socially poor and dirty and all of these negative things, because that's what you've seen in your environment, right? Compared to what you've seen, we're talking about in numbers, right? Compared to what you've seen with white people, then yeah, it kind of makes sense why they will say, oh, well, she's more beautiful. That's just like on a dating app and how you can swipe left or swipe right. And, it will be interesting to do a study on this to see how black men would choose, their partner on a dating app, right? And if they swipe, left or swipe right, left is decline, I think, and right is given to the person a like. So to see in a research study, and you use black women and black women and white women's pictures, right? And to see how many swipe lefts do they do, how many swipe rights, and just to see how black men choose their mate, right? And to see how they assign their perception of beauty to these two women, these two different kinds of women, black women and white women, right? I just think it's very interesting. I mean, tell me guys what you guys think about this. So beyond being aesthetically appealing, because that's like, I mean, you may look at it like, oh, that's like a small number. I think the first three that I named, the shield of protection, genetic survival, and the intergenerational trauma, those kind of hold more weight. You know, like, it's a lot that goes into mate selection. Let's have an honest conversation about this. I haven't even eaten breakfast yet, y'all. I'm doing this like freestyle. The fourth one. Oh, that was the fourth one. The fifth one is availability, proximity. And that goes into, I don't know if Yang is still watching, but he says he's from South Africa. That goes into the statement that he was making, that he made earlier. He said that it's very rare, meaning black men marrying or dating outside their race is very rare here in my location, which he's in South Africa. Right now, even though, yes, white people live in South Africa, but South Africa is still predominantly black. Just like most countries in Africa, I mean, they're black leaders. So it makes sense that, okay, if you are in a place where the majority of people are black, and then of course it makes sense why a black man would choose, more likely date and marry what's the majority, because that's what he has to choose from. We're talking about availability and proximity here, right? But on to the contrary, if he's in America and black people only make up 12% of the population, the U.S. population, and white people are the majority, I think white people make up 3/4 of the population, nearly 75% of the population, then it will make sense. And to even go microscopic with it, depending on what neighborhood, depending on a man's zip code in which this black man lives, yes, it makes sense why a black man will choose to marry or date a non-black woman, because that's what's in his environment, that's what's in his proximity. Now, of course, I know some of y'all can say, oh no, he doesn't have to. We're not talking about have to, but we're talking about convenience here, right? We're talking about, like, yes, a person can go and drive 100 miles to meet their significant other if they choose to. A person can move to a totally different country if they need to do that to meet their significant other. But if a person is living life, right, and we look at black men, especially in the media, who marry outside of their race, and these black men, obviously they're in the media, they're wealthy, or they have a sense of financial security, stability, right? They have a decent sized bank account. Most likely they probably live in a middle class, you know, suburban neighborhood, white picket fence, you know, part of the country club. It's about what's in their immediate surroundings, right? What's in their environment. It makes sense why they would choose an Asian woman. That's what's in their environment. That's what they see. That's what they have access to. It's like going grocery shopping. You're going to go grocery shopping way across town. You're going to drive a whole hour to get organic food. Because we look at organic food as better than just the regular food that you get in the grocery store, right? You're going to drive a whole hour across town to get the better food? Or you're going to just go down the street because you're hungry and go grocery shopping and get, you know, what's accessible to you, right? So it's really about accessibility, proximity, availability, right? What they have at their fingertips. And that's what they choose. Because it's right there. It's right there. In their environment, you know? And it's a numbers game. I talked about this in another video where I talked about why black women marry or choose to date, you know, non-black men or white men, right? And for the guy who commented, oh, you always making videos about black men, he thought I was going to get in here and start attacking black men. It's like, come on, that's what most people do. Most people quick to jump to conclusions, but you do not take the time to listen. That's the reason why many relationships fail. That's a whole nother video, because you guys are quick to respond or react, really, but you're not listening. You don't take the time to listen and understand. Moving on along. That was number 5. Number 6 kind of goes along with that. Wealth building. I think any smart person wants to create a life for their offspring that was better than what they had to go through, right? So, of course, we know a lot of black men alongside black women struggle growing up, right? We didn't have that many access to resources compared to our white counterparts growing up. You know, we look back through the generations, and it's kind of consistent till to this day. It's the same thing. We just don't. We have access, right? It's not that we don't, because if you have African people or people from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, if I was in America, I would do this. They look at like we have so many resources. We have more resources, but don't be mistaken. There's still discrimination. There's still systemic racism that exists, that creates these racial disparities between white people and black people in our country. It's not that, oh, black people just are lazy and we just choose to not go to school, we choose not to work, we choose to live in fucked up neighborhoods. That is not the issue here. So yes, black people want to rise up. We want to create lives that's better than what we had to go through. With every generation, we're supposed to advance. We're supposed to do better than what our parents did, than what we did, and create this better life for our children. And I think when black men think about it, they think that marrying outside of their race is going to just create better opportunities for themselves, right? It's the same reason why people choose to go to predominantly white schools. Better opportunities, more access to resources, more money. Why do people choose to come to America? Why do people choose to visit predominantly white countries as opposed to visiting countries within Africa? More resources, better opportunities, right? So this is the thing, because people are quick to judge people based on their personal decisions on who they choose to be friends with, who they choose to marry when it comes to interracial relations. But we all have interracial relations. So why is it appropriate to attack people who marry outside of their race, but then people shop outside of their race? People do business with other people outside of their race. None of that gets put under scrutiny. But as soon as a person marries outside of their race, that gets put under scrutiny, right? I'm not here to take one side or the other. I'm just here to ask a legitimate question, because I think that's kind of unfair. We all do business outside of their race, whatever that business is, personal, professional. It's still, we do business. That's just the way the world has already said. We were born into this world the way it is. So when a black man decides, and I think it's probably more of a conscious decision for him to decide to marry a white woman based on financial opportunities that he perceives this woman brings to the table compared to the black woman, it's endless. You think about it, like, it's a reason why. You guys have to really stop to think. Don't stop judging. Okay, after you do your judging, because I know you're going to judge anyway. That's kind of like automatic. You know, like people just say things automatically without even thinking first, right? So after you get done with your judging black men, calling them coons and trade outs and switch outs, I think it's appropriate to try to come to an understanding. There's a reason. Like, it is always a reason behind things. It's a reason. And can you blame the black man? Can you blame him for doing that? Considering that what black people have built has been destroyed, can you blame them? Black people, yes, we've come together, we built Black Wall Street. That was destroyed, right? A lot of black people are doing great things for themselves, including myself, with their own businesses, through entrepreneurship, you know, creating organizations, and we're rising to the top, right? But we don't do that without the support and help of non-black people. I know a lot of people who are Pan-African, including myself, we have this belief that we want to just be black all the way around. Everything that we use within our organization has to be black, including the materials, the resources, the people. Everything has to be black, right? But everything, unfortunately, isn't black, right? Like, technology isn't black owned. I mean, everything, most things are not black owned. So we live in an integrated society. It just doesn't make sense, right? And this is the last one, and I'm gonna go through this list one more time before I end this video. But the last one is the reason why black men date and marry outside of their race is because they can. And not only because they can, it's because they have been denied for so many years. And up until 1967, black men were not allowed to marry white women. It's just like keeping something from someone for so long, and then when you say, you know what, you can have it, people go crazy. Just like what's happening now in our society with this whole shutdown. We were locked down for so long, and you say, all right, you can go outside. People are going outside who ain't really never been outside. Like, some people don't even like going outside in the outdoors because it's too hot, mosquitoes or whatever, right? But because people have been held in for so long, people are enjoying nature now, you know? It's the same thing. It's human nature. If you deny someone of something for so long and you say you can't have it, it makes that thing that they can't have, that they've been denied, attractive. So these black men are like, what is it about the white woman? They're curious. They're like, what is it about the white woman that I've been prohibited from having? And with that, something that they previously couldn't have and up until 1967, and they now can have through that law that was passed, because there was a court case, the Loving versus Virginia court case in 1967, and it made it legal for black men and black women to marry outside their race. They're like feeling a sense of accomplishment. They're like, I can do this now. Like, previously black people couldn't vote, women couldn't vote, and then now you can do it. It's just like a sense of pride, a sense of accomplishment, of ownership. You're like, I can do this. I feel strong. Like, it makes perfect sense, right? So, and for black men who know that white women were like off limits, right? And kind of still, in a way, you know, you can kind of look at white women as being off limits, even though it's legal to marry, for black men to marry white women. It's like white women are kind of still kind of like off limits, like, oh, you shouldn't go here. It's just like a black person buying a house in a white neighborhood. It's legal, but we all know that there's a legal side of America, and that's what happens behind the scenes or under the table kind of thing, right? So it's just like, yeah, black people can go and buy properties if they got the money in white neighborhoods, but see how easy it's going to be to do that, right? So the same thing, dating interracially is just like, okay, it's legal, but it's not so easy. Black men get attacked left and right for dating outside their race. So to be able to do something that is like the forbidden fruit, it's like it gives them a sense of accomplishment. You know, it gives them a sense of like hype. You know, it makes them feel like, you know, like this courage, right? And I mean, I get it. I can understand that. You know, as like I said, I study psychology, I study human behavior. This is what I do. So just because a person understands something doesn't mean that they vouch for it, right? I'm not gonna go outside and be carrying a sign, be like, oh, interracial marriages matter. Like, it's not that deep. But I'm just making this video to paint a picture for people who somehow don't seem to understand, and they judge what they don't quite understand. I think it takes a sense of discipline, a bit of discipline, a bit of patience, a bit of selflessness to put yourself in someone else's shoes to be able to understand why they do certain things, right? As working a person training to become a psychologist, working in a prison system with criminals, with the rejects of society, with black men, Hispanic men who have been typecast, right? And they have committed some very heinous crimes. First degree murder, armed robbery, like taking people's lives. Like, it's not that I agree with the behavior. It's not, because most of them were criminals. I mean, most of them were gang members and still affiliated themselves as gang members. So it's not that, oh, like, I'm supporting gang life. But just because a person understands something doesn't mean that they support it. Too bad, yeah, you got to go back. I'm not about to repeat what I've said, but I will do a quick summary of the 7 reasons why black men marry and date outside their race. So like I said, the first one is just a shield of protection, right? It makes them feel safe, right? The second one is genetic survival. It gives them a sense of security that what they went through, their children doesn't have to go through, right? The third one, intergenerational trauma. We know that black people have been through so much trauma, and people want peace of mind. You know, if you can choose between peace of mind and chaos. Some people are so much used to chaos and trauma that's what they choose to attach themselves with, right? But some people just like, nah, I want to get away from that. Like, black men are already being hunted and killed. You know, why would you want to choose that route, right? 4, black men just do it because they feel that white women are more aesthetically appealing than black women. Or white women are more aesthetically appealing than black women. Did I say that right? The 5th one is availability. I think that's what you missed. You have to go back and watch it, because you brought up a good point. It was one of my reasons why I say that black men marry outside their race. But it boils down to their accessibility, you know, and what the numbers look like in the area in which they live, in the society in which they live, you know, the demographics. Simple as that. They have more access to more white women than black women, then that's more likely what they're gonna choose. 6 is wealth building, and 7 is just because they can, because at one point in time marrying outside of one's race was illegal, and when that law got passed, people were doing it just because they could do it. That's just like, why do teenagers smoke? Because they can. Why do people when they reach 21 drink alcohol? Not that it's good for them, it's just because they can. Because they've been denied something for so long, that thing in which they've been denied becomes attractive to them, becomes eye candy. They're like, I want to see what it's like. And some people, I don't know if you guys understand this, but some people like to go against the grain. You know, it makes them feel a certain kind of way when they know that what they're doing and what they're standing for, most people are against. I know I'm that kind of person, right? That's just like why some people choose to live the homosexual lifestyle, you know. They may not really be gay, but they like the attention that comes along with it. So I'll go ahead and end here. I'm curious to hear your opinions, your perspective on this. I know many of you are quick to disagree, but all I ask is that, of course, if you disagree, to just give a short explanation. Say more. Instead of just jumping on here, oh, I disagree. this is wrong, you're wrong, because people are quick to say that, but they don't really offer anything to the discussion, the conversation. Offer something to the conversation more than a disagreement. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys later. Love you guys. And of course, I am pro-black. I am pro-black marriage. I just had to offer my perspective on this topic. Love you guys.